Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your break and the beautiful scenery of Hiroshima. Let's get right into the public-private session. The LNG Producer Consumer Conference was established as a forum for governments and companies from LNG producing and consuming countries to discuss the future of LNG. After being held online and between governments, the public-private dialogue is being reinstated. We have received a video message from Mr. Daniel Jurgen, Vice Chairman of S&P Global. Let's take a look.
Hello, I'm Daniel Jurgen, Vice Chairman of S&P Global, and I'm very grateful to Mehdi and to the conference organizers who have the opportunity to address you at the opening of this year's event. The LNG Producer Consumer Conference has become an important part of the annual calendar before COVID, and it is important as ever as it continues. We live in a more fractious world. In fact, the world order that has lasted since the beginning of the post-Cold War era may be morphing toward a world redefined by stronger pursuit of national interests and issues rather than shared global values. International relations are less predictable, and there is greater geopolitical division and confrontation. Yet within this troubled world, international trade and business must push forward. In the case of natural gas and LNG specifically, intergovernmental and international solidarity remains critical to facilitate or allow multi-billion-dollar joint venture projects and their associated long-term contracts. At the same time, open traded markets must be allowed to function as arbiters of price discovery and market balance, and also for portfolio management. So allow me in my remarks to introduce 4 simple ideas, which I hope may help frame discussions that you have at the conference. The first is encapsulated in the phrase or the term pragmatic transition. I emphasize that, and I emphasize the word pragmatic. Indeed, Japan has long been an important voice arguing for a pragmatic energy transition that recognizes both the importance of the transition itself, but also the realistic constraints, timelines, and pressures associated with any great shift in the energy system. And that recognizes the different starting points and concerns of different countries. The energy transition is challenged in more ways than in some parts of the world than in others than is recognized. A combination of cost inflation, higher interest rates, permitting constraints, and regulatory barriers are causing problems for clean energy really around the world. We see this in technology projects in many OECD countries. At the same time, China's transition races forward, even as that economy so clearly slows. Its clean tech deployment is more than offsetting any slowdown in renewables or electric vehicle build out elsewhere and continuing to break real records in terms of growth. What we're seeing in the most recent years is both fossil fuels and clean tech are growing. It is not either or. One is not replacing the other. Thus far, renewables, despite so-called astronomic growth, have served as incremental or additional supply to global energy needs. They have helped meet growing energy needs, but have not really displaced fossil fuels. It remains to be seen whether the continued scaling up of renewables can go further than as an additive energy source. Meanwhile, there remains a tension between the world's appetite for more energy and the need to moderate greenhouse gas emissions. There is another aspect of Japan's role that really underpins the rationale for this conference. Japan has been the global leader in conveying the continued importance of energy security and keeping it at the forefront of policy. Japan's leadership has been critical, And that in turn underscores the critical role of LNG in bolstering global and regional energy security. And that is woven into the fabric of this conference and the convergence of all of you to participate in the conference. My second point is around short-term markets. And here the message is tighter for longer. The shock waves of the 2022 energy crisis are receding, but the gas market remains tight, and the full reconfiguration of the global gas market still remains to be completed. US gas prices remain weak, while international prices remain obstinately wedged above $10 per million BTU. Now, this audience, all of you know that there is a coming LNG wave. That's clearly on the way. It's based solely on projects already under construction. Global LNG supply will increase by about 40% by 2030 relative to 2023. At S&P, we actually forecast the new project supply growth by 2030 will surpass 50%. This long-awaited increase in global capacity for LNG, primarily driven by the US and Qatar, should bring these two prices, the US and international prices, somewhat closer together and provide welcome relief to LNG buyers. But this is still some way off. Several fundamental issues threaten to delay the market rebalance. We see further delays to LNG projects approaching completion, and we see a high risk of further loss of Russian pipeline gas to Europe in 2025. We also note the emergence of extreme cooling needs during the Northern Hemisphere summer, which appears to become a more established market support. Together, these factors, delayed LNG, less Russian pipeline gas, and hot summers, will likely keep gas markets tight. This turning point from tightness to looseness will likely not come before late 2025 or 2026. My third point is the institutional uncertainty around the US LNG bill. I refer to the temporary pause or authorizations announced at the beginning of the year, followed by judicial challenges and overturning of pre-existing approvals. Here, it is important to remember that most of the current LNG bill that will provide market relief in 2026 is not affected by these developments. Rather, it is the next wave of developments needed by the end of the decade and beyond that are stymied or slow or closed in uncertainty. My message here that US policy must weigh up many conflicting factors, but it is very important that international voices and international allies convey the importance of US LNG and the mutual benefit that accrues from it. It's very important that those voices be heard. To be clear, the US will continue to be a reliable and growing contributor to global supplies, but the risk is that new projects will simply take longer and be more expensive. Good policy can mitigate the risk. And of course, we all wait to see what the outcome of this pause will be. At our 2024 CERAWeek conference, US Secretary of Energy Jennifer Granholm said by 2025, the LNG pause, as she said, will be in the rear view mirror, but we don't know exactly what it is that will be in the rear view mirror. Thus, it's very important that allies continue to voice the importance of US LNG as a fundamental contributor to security and reliability in the global energy system and thus in the global economy. I will reserve my fourth and final point to talk about one of the newest topical issues to have emerged over the last year, data centers. The technology companies are looking to scale up massively that capacity of data centers driven by generative AI and reinforced also by electric vehicles, reinforced by high-end manufacturing, reshoring of chip, semiconductor fabrication, and so forth. The utilities are scrambling to calculate the implications on power demand of both the associated data centers and potentially also a continuing boost from crypto mining. And of course, the gas community in turn wants to understand what share of the new wave will translate into more gas demand. The uncertainties are large, and we are still have much to learn here. Perhaps we should apply a dose of skepticism, or at least pause in terms of coming to conclusions, at least in regard to some of the highest estimates for power demand. But in the US, if people are talking about that by 2030, 10% of electricity demand, or almost 10%, will be for data centers. But it is sobering to recall that from 2010 to 2018, computer instances, however defined, grew 550%, yet the additional power demand to meet that 550% growth was only 6%. But clearly, data centers use an enormous amount of electricity, and a lot of effort will go into trying to be more efficient in use. But I do want to finish on a positive note for the industry. For all the uncertainty, there is little doubt that the data centers will provide for meaningful demand beyond what would have been thought even a year ago. And as we all know, for LNG, small changes can have a big impact, and natural gas will have a much bigger role, or at least a bigger role in electricity generation around the world, and certainly in North America, among other places, than have been anticipated even a year ago. So in summary, a more pragmatic, multidimensional energy transition is taking shape, one more in line with Japanese thinking and more attuned to the growth needs of Asia and the global South, and also taking into account, as Japan has emphasized, energy security. Secondly, the alleviation of a tight gas market is on the horizon, but is probably going to be delayed by another year or more. Thirdly, the U.S. will continue to provide growing supply volumes to the global LNG market, but the medium and long-term future of U.S. LNG needs to be clarified, and we hope that that will happen within the next 6 months. And finally, data centers and AI provide an exciting new area for LNG market growth. Among much else, I hope that these points provide some stimulus to your deliberations today, and indeed over the months ahead. I thank the Minister and Mehdi once again for the opportunity, and congratulating you on putting together this event, which is such an important event at such an important time. Thank you.
We would like to thank Mr. Jürgen for joining us by video message. Next, on behalf of the industrial sector, I'd like to invite to the stage Mr. Jean Abitboul, President of GIIGNL, to deliver his speech. Let's give a warm welcome.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and dear colleagues, it's an honor for me to be before you today and to discuss with you the partnership between the public and private sectors in shaping the future of the global LNG industry. As a president of GIIGNL, I strongly believe on the crucial role of cooperation between producers, importers, and public institutions. As a reminder, GIIGNL is the international group of LNG importers, which gathers 94 members from 29 countries, and which will hold its yearly General Assembly tomorrow here in Hiroshima. Today's session objective is clear: to facilitate constructive engagement, identify mutual interests, and develop shared strategies that can address the most pressing issue facing the LNG sector. The global LNG landscape is experiencing unprecedented shifts, geopolitical tensions, supply chain disruptions, and the urgency of climate change. In the recent years, the LNG industry has been able to dramatically reallocate flows to cope with major disruptive events such as the Fukushima incident in 2011 or the quasi-interruption of European pipe gas import from Russia in 2022. Also, the fact that under these circumstances, adjustment of market prices have led to an efficient reallocation of LNG flows, the role of governments remains paramount. Policy and regulation set by public institutions can foster an environment conducive to innovation and investment. Such initiatives as the EU methane regulation in Europe or the MMRV in the United States highlight the growing need for the LNG sector to adapt to more stringent environmental standards while continuing to ensure energy reliability and affordability. Private companies contribute by advancing technology, optimizing supply chains, and developing infrastructure. By working hand in hand, we can navigate these complexities and turn challenges into opportunities for growth and innovation. In this session, structured around 3 panels, we will delve into key topics such as promotion of new financing model for LNG projects, advancements in technology that can reduce emissions, and strategies to enhance energy security in the face of an uncertain global market. The increase in certainty on the future gas market due to the opening to competition or to the net zero policies make long-term commitments riskier and call for new financing schemes beyond the traditional take-or-pay contracts. Through collaborative efforts, we can ensure that the LNG industry not only meet current demands, but also position itself as a cornerstone of the transition to a more sustainable energy system. Let's take the opportunity of these panels to shape a shared vision for the future of LNG, a vision that leverages the strengths of both public and private sectors to meet the evolving needs of our global community. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to a productive and enriching session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Abitbol.